Tell the story about how you came to Chicago and your experience there.
I graduated from college in Binghamton, which is about an hour or so from Cooperstown, in '84, and I started working on Wall Street, but I was working for a group of guys that had a brokerage firm on the CBOE, on the Options Exchange. And I visited Chicago in the summer of '85 for a week, saw the exchange, which was, everything was happening there. It was young guys like me, options were really taking off. From a work situation, that was the place to be. From a social situation, I just fell in love with Chicago. I went to White Sox games, Cub games, had Chicago pizza, saw the city, and it was just an easier place to be, a friendlier place to be. And I said to myself, if I ever had a chance to move to Chicago, I would. And by February of '87, I was married and we moved to Chicago.
And how did you get Sox tickets, Cubs tickets, and what were some of your memories of each, seeing those games?
I always went to ball games, so even before I had any access to season tickets, on a personal level, there were always access to tickets, and I loved it, particularly Wrigley, that had a 3:15 start, so the exchange would close. I could get on the L, get up there in no time, grab a ticket from a scalper and be like 5 feet. I remember vividly one of my first games in '87. Being about 2 rows back from the Mets, visiting on Dexter and Hernandez and Strawberry there. I'm like, and it was Wrigley and it was sunny and it was beautiful. I'm like, this is the best place to live.
Yeah.
By '91, a friend of mine, his father had access to club level season tickets at the new Comiskey, so I shared in that and loved it. I thought the ballpark was beautiful. Saw a lot of great games there. It was really Thomas's first full year, which ties us into, our love for Thomas. By the next year, he didn't renew them, so I didn't have access to that. But after the strike in '94, there were a group of friends that had full season tickets at Wrigley. One of them dropped out after the strike, and I immediately seized the opportunity. So in time, I had half of a 4-ticket plan for 9 years. And I saw so many great things there. The '98 playoff was fantastic. The All-Star game in 1990 was great. I was thinking last night about the Home Run Derby in 1990. Bill Murray did like the play-by-play from the field. It was hysterical. Saw Maddox pitch the front end of a doubleheader when he was on the Braves, and I think it was like 65 pitches in about an hour and a half. One of the greatest things I've ever seen. But every day at Wrigley was a treat. I mean, it was just really nice to be there.
And what do you expect on induction weekend? Any big Chicago contingent coming in, or what do you have in the plans here?
Well, I can gauge it personally that I'm being flooded with Chicago people. Some are close friends, like my friend Rick, whose father had the White Sox tickets and who shared Cub tickets with me. He's coming out with his family. His sister's coming out with her husband. My friend Jimmy and his wife Gail are coming out. Gail is Gail Gann, the famous Chicago pastry chef. So we have a lot of Chicago people that are close to us, but I'm also getting emails from people who are saying, oh, this kid who works for me is coming out with his friends, they'd love to meet you. So I think there's going to be a pretty strong Chicago contingent. In terms of overall crowd, we're thinking about 40 to 50,000, which would put it kind of in the top 3 or 4 ever. The wild card is Joe Torre. Who knows how many cars will drive up from New York if it's a nice day. It's only about 3.5 hours. That could skew the numbers total. But it's going to be big and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah. With you said you had a Ernie Banks story from your time at Wrigley.
Oh yeah. I forget the date, and I was going to look it up because I used to keep score every game, and I have a lot of years worth of scorecards at home. But it was the first game back at Wrigley after 9/11, and I forget what the Cubs did, but I think they were like former Cub players kind of scattered throughout the ballpark. And I was just walking through, I guess where the Harry Carey statue is, that right field entrance. And there was Ernie Banks. He was just kind of standing there, and I wasn't sure why and what he was doing. I just said, hey. He's like, hey, come over here. I don't know if he thought I was someone else or whatever, but when Ernie Banks says, hey, come on over, you come over.
Right.
And we talked for a while. I think he signed something. I didn't even ask him to because I felt like I wasn't sure what the rules were. But he was just everything you'd hope for in Ernie Banks. He was friendly, he was nice, he was engaging. So